pop quiz. Why did Concord fail? Was it because the hero shooter genre was too oversaturated? Is it the lack of innovative and unique gameplay mechanics? Or could it have even been those horrible maps? On all three fronts, I say nay. If the hero shooter genre is oversaturated, then why are both Deadlock and Marvel Rivals so successful? If every live service game has to have innovative and completely unique gameplay mechanics, then why is Valorant able to stay in the same lane as CSGO despite bearing extremely similar mechanics? And if map design supposedly kills a game, then somebody out there explain to me how Dead by Daylight didn't shut down the servers 10 years ago. No, my friends. There is something much deeper, much more complicated under the surface here that we have to find. There must be some algorithm, some ancient text or script, ley lines in the earth. The tectonic plates, the peak of Mount Everest. Somewhere lies the answer for why this game failed compared to the others. It has haunted me for many a moon. But nay, my friends, distraught thyself not. For I have found the truth, and it's a lot more obvious than you might think. As a matter of fact, you're looking at it right now. Hey freaks and geeks, it's Aleric here, and today we are going to be digesting, dissecting, and divulging exactly why it is that these live service games fall apart, crumble like a cookie. Not a good one, a bad one, stinky bad cookie. Under absolutely zero pressure whatsoever. But why? Why make this video now, young Aleric, I hear you asking? Well, I have the answer. There's a little game, you might have heard of it, called Highguard. And this game, I don't know if you've heard, isn't doing too great right now. And I've heard this consistent discourse over and over amongst people online about why it is that this is happening and why this has happened to so many live service games. And I really just wanted to put my little eyeball's voice out there. Because as an artist, the reason to me is very obvious. It's ugly. But it really is more than that. It isn't just ugly. It's also directionless and purposeless and doesn't really say anything at all. Like, pick any of the other live service model games that I talked about at the beginning of this video, and you can point out an endless number of problems with their gameplay, their communities, with the meta structure and progression of the game, with their monetization. All of those games have a lot to work on in multiple of those departments. But the one thing that is nailed across the board, across Deadlock, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, Valorant, and CSGO, is coherent visual and artistic design. When you look at the visuals of any of these games, at any given moment, you gain an understanding of the world that is at play here. The reason that Highguard immediately got compared to Concord before anything else happened was not just the fact that this was another random live service out of nowhere. It's because out of all of the games that Highguard is closest to visually, Concord is number one. And I'd argue Concord made all of the exact same mistakes. So, what now? How can Highguard escape the Concord curse? And how is it that Highguard released with such a distinct lack of content and focus at the same time that we have an early access game with nothing but love driven into every single component that is completely unmonetized? How do we save the Highguard? Part 1! Characters! Make them better. Imagine this. It's 1991 and you're a teenager. I know, hell. You've got nothing fun to do after school aside from reading a book like a nerd or hard drugs. Until one day, like magic from the heavens, an arcade opens in your town. Last time you were in an arcade, it was during a road trip to Ohio that gave you lifelong trauma. This is way better. So you walk on in the arcade expecting the same old usual fare, the Galagas, the Pac-Mans, the Miss Pac-Mans, until it catches your eye. A particular cabinet with a fine, shining finish. My God, it's magnificent. That cabinet is Street Fighter 2. And as you slip your quarters into your fine new companion, you find yourself looking at a menu? with faces on it. Hold on. This ain't like them old fighting games. No. You don't just have to play the one guy or the one guy wearing red. You can play as 8 different people, each with their own completely unique identity and moveset. What? This is nuts! They're all from different parts of the world and represent different cultures? Is that guy green? Brazilians can control lightning? What the hell is happening? This, my friend, is the power of the roster, a power invented by Street Fighter II when it decided to let you play as multiple unique characters. Since its inception 35 years ago, the roster has slowly grown and evolved as a mechanic in games, expanding well beyond its fighting game roots and creating entire new genres and formats of play. The character select screen acts as a perfect window into what your game is. Even across just Street Fighter as a franchise, we can see drastic changes in how the character roster functions in getting across the art direction and story of each individual game. And furthermore, how it gets across how impactful, unique, and well-made each of your game's characters actually are. Here's an example of 2 good Street Fighter games, Third Strike and SF6. Here's what it looks like to select Ken in Third Strike, and here's what it looks like in Street Fighter 6. It's so clear how drastic of a change Ken has gone through over the years, that these are effectively 2 different characters because of how much Ken has gone through. And despite the core gameplay loop of Street Fighter remaining the same, you would never look at Third Strike and 6 next to each other and assume that they were identical. Now, let's pick Ken from Street Fighter V's roster. Ooh, that's rough. Now, out of these 3 games, take a guess which one people hated the most at launch. It's kinda obvious. When a game has a roster or a character select screen, this is the first gameplay impression that you're going to get of these characters outside of the cover and any advertising materials. So you really have to nail getting across who these people are. This depiction of Ken is more terrible than just the badly modeled banana hair. It's also the fact that his character is completely lost here. In Third Strike, he looks like a man in his prime, ready and arrogant, ripping and rolling, wanting to fight anybody who gets in his way, with a smile on his face. In 6, we can see how devastating the loss of his family has affected him, and how much he has focused himself back onto his training and the need to fight. In 5, he just looks like a crackhead. I mean, genuinely, what is this expression supposed to convey? I see this in my nightmares. I close my eye and there he is! Street Fighter V was almost the end of Capcom when it released. And while there was a number of extra factors that affected that, I still think that the number one reason was because it was butt ugly and it had a terrible roster. 16 characters instead of the 25 that Street Fighter IV started with. The modeling and texturing was frankly atrocious. A wonky physics engine that had Nikali's hair flying through his own chest every single match. And most importantly of all, they ruined a lot of these characters and took away their sauce. I mean, look what they did to my boy Birdie. He was so cool in Alpha. Oh my god. Now, Street Fighter V did eventually turn it around, but it took a lot of time, effort, and changes to the art style to get the characters and the game looking the way it was probably supposed to look at launch. But I don't think it's fair to compare Highguard to a game from an entirely different genre. So let's compare it more closely to hero shooters that adopted the roster mindset from Street Fighter II. For our roster comparison here, we're going to work backwards, and you're going to see exactly why in just about a minute. Deadlock is the most recent of the games we're going to be talking about because, well, technically it's not released at all. It's in early development with a playable test build. Even still, it has 38 characters, and if they keep up the release schedule that they have been, it's looking like on launch, there's going to be at least 40 or more characters. Deadlock absolutely nails its character design and its roster. Every single character has a completely unique splash art, descriptors, and visual aesthetic that feeds into this very unique world where eldritch dark magic is fusing with this saucy noir style. Deadlock feels like the natural endgame for a hero shooter's roster. Even with the early development designs of certain characters like Haze and Seven, you can still feel the character oozing out of them. And the sheer level of love and detail put into making sure their personalities come through in every single animation. Whether that be the zipline animations, like Abrams doing pull-ups as he rides it, or Shiv and Celeste riding on the zipline using their legs to show off their attitude, personality, and dexterity. Even just looking at each character's idle pose, you get a very clear idea of their attitude and personality just by how they move. Look at Billy twitching as he just stands there, ready and hungry to fight in a frenzy. Or Drifter clicking his neck suddenly left and right to show his psychotic and animalistic tendencies. Before you even are able to get into the game to see these details, the roster screen has each and every character's name in their own unique font. This level of graphic design makes it extremely clear to you as the player that every single one of these characters had a ton of thought put into every element. And this isn't even actually breaking down the visual design of the characters, the color theory at play, the shape language. I mean, I could talk for hours about these characters. About Mina, whose skirt is simultaneously shaped like an umbrella, a bat's wings, and claws at the same time to show her status as a vampire, as well as her reliance on her parasol as a method of transportation and keeping the sun at bay. Or about Dynamo, whose chest compartment that's holding him together and keeping the black hole that makes up his body from expanding and destroying New York has the solar system in the rings coming out from his stomach. This is what makes Deadlock second to none in its character roster. To have such a massive quantity of characters with such high quality is just ridiculous. And even with these early designs for a lot of the characters, I can see very clearly what path they're headed down, and I'm extremely excited. But I've gushed on about Deadlock for long enough. On to comparing more rosters going back in time. And let's hurry it up, huh? Marvel Rivals had a launch roster of 33, 37 if you include Season 1, and across the board clearly nails a pseudo-futurism aesthetic, and while a lot of the designs are very busy, they do work within the context of Rivals' visual design. All in all, an excellent roster. Going back a little further, Valorant, another very comparable game to Highguard, dropped with 10 characters in its launch roster in 2020. Significantly less, but Valorant was much more focused on being a slow-paced, tactical shooter. And honestly, I would argue it has the weakest designs of the games we've talked about so far. Don't at me. But what Valorant lacks in its individual character designs, it makes up for in its unique UI and amazing gun designs. Which makes sense, it's a first-person shooter. It's focused on the guns, not the people. Which is also part of the reason why the roster is smaller, because the game is focused on your tools. A lot of these other hero shooters with significantly bigger rosters have each character using a unique weapon and a completely unique skill set. Valorant does not fit that mold, so the amount of characters isn't as important overall. Going back even a little further, we have the OG, Overwatch. Overwatch dropped with 21 characters, all of which having completely unique kits, and it set the standard for what a hero roster should look like. It was overall really well balanced between the roles, and offered a lot of opportunities for unique styles of play across the board. Characters all have this excellently honed-in visual design, and all feel completely unique from one another. Rainbow Six Siege, which released the year before, also launched with a roster of 20 characters. each bringing their own unique mechanic to the table and forcing you to think tactically in a unique way. And way before any of these games, in the great year of 2007, 19 years ago, Team Fortress 2 launched, with 9 playable classes, each with their own amazing stories in their launch trailers, and with so much character in-game that they are still memes today. It is physically impossible to be a person with internet access who has not seen the Heavy, the Spy, the Scout, any of the TF2 characters before. It's just not possible. So, considering that it has been 19 years since TF2, and considering how large the launch roster of the average hero shooter game is now, how many characters did Highguard drop with? 8. It dropped with 8 characters. Less than Team Fortress 2. The same amount as Street Fighter 2 on the arcade machine 34 years ago. Okay, but we gave Valorant a pass for 10 because of the quality of the art design of the game and, you know, the unique guns. Highguard has every character able to equip multiple kind of guns, so obviously it makes up for it in those aspects, right? No. Psst, hey, this is a quick reminder that this video is not sponsored, and I make all the art from the thumbnails and stuff myself, so please like and subscribe. Consider supporting me on Ko-Fi or YouTube membership or YouTube Premium or whatever. Share this video with your grandma, please. Help me fix my car. Okay, thank you, bye. Get a commission from me, bye. Part 2. Art direction. Or a lack thereof. Highguard's art direction is best described as such, generic. But why? What is it that makes Highguard generic? And why is it so hard for the average person to describe exactly what it is that makes this game's visual style feel so bland and mediocre? Let's do a little bit of compare and contrast here between Deadlock and Highguard's UIs. After all, Highguard should be in a better place than Deadlock because it is in its full release, and Deadlock is only in early development, right? Yeah. When you open Deadlock, this is what you see. Immediately, an atmosphere is established. The dark, gloomy city filled with these bright, glowing sigils representing rituals and magic oozing through the cracks of the streets. In the world of Deadlock, New York is referred to often as the Cursed Apple, and it's very obvious upon looking at it that this place is rife with strange wonders. As you enter the lobby, the title screen pulls you through the window and into the secret society's hideout, where your character is able to run around freely and explore this strange, weird place. Every inch of the building is packed with detail to sell you on this world. Half the lamps are hands holding strange orbs. There's graffiti on the walls partially whited out next to strange sigils. The training room has a giant statue of completely unknown origin just chilling there. The curiosity shop has an entire wall of taken apart guns and weapons of the main characters, showing their maintenance. Even just the fact that the shop is called a curiosity shop at all leans into the narrative that Deadlock takes place in a world where curses are the mundane, everyday activity for these people. Manipulating the soul and having spiritual magic is so normal that they literally have slot machines for it on the side of the street. So when you go into the character select screen and you see that there is a character whose entire identity revolves around being a snake and slithering across the floor while shooting you, you don't even question it, because every element of this world is crazy and warped.
You know, they love this in Philly.
Now, going back to Highguard, what does this UI say to you? Really, I mean, think about it. When you look at this, when you absorb this into your retina, what are you getting out of it? Because I'm getting nothing. Highguard's UI is so hard to talk about because it isn't saying anything, because there is a lack of anything to talk about. The UI does not invest you into the world. The lobby does not get you to think deeper about Highguard's character designs or make you question what's going on. It's just plains and mountains and Guy standing there. Because, quite frankly, that's as deep as Highguard's world gets. It's just two teams of guys killing each other for their base because. And the world is so generic that when you put generic character designs in it, there's no synergy. There's no conversation happening between the character design and the world. Like, let's take, for example, the main characters of both games, presumably. Atticus from Highguard and Abrams from Deadlock. Deadlock's world is noir 40s New York with cultists running the scene and a maelstrom of dark magic. So, its main character, Abrams, reflects this by being a half-demon detective strapped to the Necronomicon, trying to protect it from all the various powers that want to get a hold of it. Abrams is like a capsule of everything in Deadlock's world in one character. And while he is a very straightforward character to understand, there is a lot of tiny details about how he looks and how he acts that differentiates him from other protagonists and keeps him from just being the standard straight man. For example, he really doesn't want to die. Like, in a lot of his lines, he's asking people to play better so that he doesn't get killed, which I think is amazing.
Talon, I know you don't care if you die, but I am highly motivated to stay alive, so please, don't do anything stupid.
Don't worry, Abrams. I'm not dying until I have my revenge.
But at the same time, he's perfectly willing to use the dark powers of the tome to his advantage in order to seal the deal with the ritual. And he will sacrifice himself to protect the tome from people who want it, as can be seen by him handcuffing the tome to himself. Also, while we're looking at Abrams' model, I just want to point out two of my favorite details in the whole game here. On the back of his trench coat, one of the flaps is buttoned up specifically to let his tail breathe from in between the flaps. That's just great. And on the back of his leather gun holster, he has etched in a pyramid-like Illuminati symbol. Why does he have that? I have no idea, but it probably helps him maintain spirit power or something. It's intriguing, and it fits into his character and the design of the world. It makes me wonder, if Abrams was willing to use the tome to gain power, what other methods did he use? And is this little design in the back of his jacket part of that? When you first saw Abrams' model, were you able to tell what this character is and what he represents within a couple seconds of looking at it? I would guess for most of you the answer would be yes. But I'd guess if I asked you the same question of Atticus, you would answer no. Because, without knowing, what do you think this guy's powers are? Because I'll let you know, there is only one part of his character design that actually gives you a hint as to his ability. Can you figure it out? It's right there. Atticus has a steel wreath akin to the Greek gods, symbolizing his connection to lightning and Zeus. And that is it. That is the only part of his visual design that insinuates his power at all. You could argue that the steel rods on his hip also show this, but there's nothing indicating that these rods are lightning rods until he pulls them out and, puts lightning on them. They could just as well be javelins or spears. Nothing else about his design gives you any indication of his profession or his powers. Sure, he looks like a paladin, kind of, but as a warden, it's not really clear what their distinct job is. On the one hand, they're raiders, but on the other hand, they're defenders. Why they're raiding and defending isn't really clear. Atticus makes it sound like this is some sort of divine mission or some sort of heroic event, but we don't have any context as to why the Highguard fights happen or where they're happening. Hey, Editor Aleric here with a little note. Apparently Highguard is the continent they're on, and it just magically appeared again after a long time. So it's they're on Highguard with the Highguard fighting the Highguard. It's Highguard. I've been editing for 12 hours. Anyway, in Deadlock, at the beginning of every match, the patron, the dark leader of the ritual you're running, gives each of the characters a rundown on why they're doing what they're doing, what promises they will have fulfilled, what wishes they will have made for them if they complete the ritual. So immediately, even without doing any research into the lore, you know what your character is going for and why they're there. So not every character needs to have their reasoning directly clear in their visual design. For example, Paige is fighting for her brother in the ritual.
Your brother is in trouble, Paige. But while your words could not save him, today your actions can. Summon the Hidden King.
There's no real way to clearly show that visually outside of her having some sort of memento to him, but we, as the audience, wouldn't know that it's a memento to him unless we read the lore. But upon hearing the patron coming into the ritual, you know that that's who she's fighting for, so you can assume that maybe her pin or her necklace might be from her brother. Atticus's reason for fighting and the reason for Highguard as a whole is not conveyed anywhere in the character or in his dialogue. Atticus also displays the two greatest sins of Highguard's character design. The first is a lack of consistent color theory. Atticus's outfit is a mishmash of dark green, silvers, oranges, and some blues. It turns the character design into a mess because none of the colors are segmented out in such a way that it's easy to differentiate parts of the body. Abrams's color palette is cohesively blue, while still allowing some levels of separation so that you can see the different parts of his body. The white of his shirt, the different tones of the blue between his skin and his jacket, and of course, the dark bluish black of his pants allow for a separation and segmentation of his body that makes it easy to differentiate where you're aiming and what part of the character you're looking at. The clarity of the color also makes it really easy to understand in gameplay when you're dealing with an Abrams, because the second you see that iconic shade of blue of his jacket pop up, you know you have to get away from the walls. Atticus, on the other hand, just kinda looks like a smear of green with white on his arms, and it makes it really hard to tell what's going on in the design, and makes all of the details of the design really not stand out and fade away. They also just aren't flattering colors at all for his power set. Blue light onto that dark green creates this weird dark greeny blue mix that just is like, this doesn't look good. It looks kind of pukey. Yuck! Add on to this the fact that Highguard goes for that classic, unreal, hyper-realistic lighting. Oh my god, it's so realistic looking. And all the colors become really muddy and boring. A lot of work was very clearly put into making all of these different layers of cloth and segments in the armor, but all of that love and detail is lost in terrible color choices, which leads me to the second cardinal sin of the character design of Highguard: incohesive design. Here's a question: what era does Highguard take place in? Is it medieval? Is it futurism? Is it modern? Because by looking at the game, you wouldn't be able to tell, because it's trying to do all of those aesthetics simultaneously and failing at meshing them together in a cohesive way. We've got heavy armor plating and swords in the same outfit as tactical gear and Kevlar, while trying to use this hyper-futuristic aesthetic for our guns. It just doesn't mix well. And that's not to say that those aesthetics can't be mixed well. I mean, just look at the aesthetics of the Magitech in Final Fantasy VI and VII. Those games masterfully mesh the art of hyper-industrialism with magic to create these very evocative designs of steampunk laser weapons. The Industrial Revolution style of machinery makes it feel like there is an extreme amount of effort and work being put into letting loose the magical power from the machines. It feels like a cost is being paid for the magic. Whereas when you go hyper future tech and magic, it's hard to differentiate between the two systems because they're both breaking the rules too much. When you fuse two systems like this, it's best to let one be extremely loose and powerful while the other has to follow grounded rules. Star Wars is a great example of this. Almost all of Star Wars' technology, despite being futuristic, is highly limited and retrograde, whereas the Force is a completely loose system that is allowed to act in a number of inconceivable ways and break the laws of reality. Star Wars is at its worst when both the technology and the Force are at a point where neither has to follow any rules, because without limitations to hold back a system, the system fails to create tension, and we as the audience don't really need to care about whatever problem comes along, because at any point someone could pull out a new thingamajiggy that could get them out of whatever situation they're in. Highguard falls into this, with every character's powers seemingly only being limited by the fact that they're cooldowns, and their futuristic weaponry being limited for pretty much no reason. Deadlock's characters are all limited by how much energy is drained from their body using dark spiritual powers, or by how clunky their weapons and abilities actually function. So despite Deadlock's world being significantly more over the top and willing to be goofy, it feels much more grounded and realistic than Highguard while looking like this.
What a day to be Lash!
Deadlock's world is cohesive, so it allows their characters to be incohesive without breaking the mold. If Deadlock's world wasn't designed as well and as succinctly as it is, then you couldn't have a game that simultaneously has one character who is a serial killer who stalks and murders young women, and a literal living ball of goo who's actually an amoeba from the bottom of the ocean in the exact same character select screen. Oh, but I have one last gripe to share about Highguard's art design, and it has nothing to do with the art design itself. It has to do with the art designer, singular, Cristina LAVINA PEREZ. I would like to formally apologize to you on behalf of literally everybody who talked about Highguard looking bland, because this excellent artist, this woman, was the only concept artist behind the characters of Highguard. This, my friends, is indicative of issues we see across every industry that requires artists right now. For a game that is entirely focused on a hero fantasy, where the characters are inarguably the single most important part of the game, they had a singular artist working on every single character, on top of the fact that she also worked on microtransactions for the game. So ultimately, no, this isn't really an art issue at all. This is a direction issue, and I need that to be your takeaway. I am not here to shit on Cristina's art, because she's an excellent artist. I'm here to shit on the translation of her art from 2D to 3D. I'm here to shit on the process that failed to vet out color palettes, because if we look at other color palettes for character designs Cristina was going to drop in the game later, for characters like Ebba, Koldo, who will be the last character released, or Onyx, these characters have significantly more refined color palettes and visual designs, and it's clear that with time, working on the same universe, Cristina's designs simply got better. And if she actually had the time from the beginning to make these designs as good as they could have been, we wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Every single issue we have talked about in this video ultimately stems from this point, that Cristina was put into a position where she could not win. Extremely small launch roster, you only have one character artist. Designs that feel incongruent with each other and are kind of all over the place, with occasional really high hits and occasional really low misses. You only have one character artist. Terrible, terrible millennial-ass dialogue that does not fit in the world or with the stakes of the game. Well, it's because you only had one character artist, and apparently nobody writing the dialogue talked to her. The entire point of a character artist is that they, along with their team, discuss and figure out all of the details about the character to make sure they translate as best as possible to the game. Overwatch had 3 years of development with a staff of at least 5 character artists from what I could find, and looking through any bit of concept art for any Overwatch character will have you seeing tens of different designs at minimum. Hell, every time a Devil May Cry game is made, they spend months refining the look of Dante and redoing it over and over and over until it looks perfect. Bringing this back to Capcom and Street Fighter II like when we started, the only Street Fighter game that didn't have a long period of time where multiple concept artists vetted each other's work and created a congruent world was Street Fighter V, the same one I just shit on. And why did I shit on Street Fighter V? Because the artists suck? No, because the direction is bad. If there's anything you take away from this, it is that whoever was directing the game at Wildlight was not doing a good job. And to can the game during Women's History Month, when your sole concept artist was a woman, I mean, someone's got to be stoned in the streets, right? Who are we flogging?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
Part 3. What comes next? So, what does Highguard have to do to not get concorded? Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I know, you were looking to me to have some sort of answer, some sort of bow to tie this whole thing together, but I really don't, because what I would recommend to Highguard is a complete visual overhaul. The UI needs to have character. The world needs to be inviting and have some sort of intriguing element. And the characters have to show off their personality and have some sort of mechanical complexity that they just don't have. If anything, Highguard, in my opinion, is in a worse place than Concord from a purely visual standpoint. And I know people are going to think I'm crazy for that, because the worst of Concord's character designs were really bad. But what Concord had that Highguard doesn't is a direction. At least Concord was trying to go for retrofuturism. It was trying to hit on a particular aesthetic. Did it do it well? No. But it tried. And I think if it was given the right art team or given the time to revamp its visuals, then at least from an outside perspective, it would have looked a lot better. What Concord didn't have backing it was an interesting and fun mechanical gameplay loop. And Highguard does have a little bit of that. As a game from former Apex devs, the actual movement and gunplay really does feel quite nice, but it's hindered severely by the game's systems being just unfun. Why would I want to spend 3 minutes of my game reinforcing 5 walls in a base, figuring out a loadout that's going to be completely thrown away by random weapons in the world immediately, mining random crystals, and buying a couple items from the shop when I could just get straight into the action? Games like Valorant and Siege provide a real reason for a prep phase in between rounds. They give you opportunities to strategize in unique ways to make the best use of the tight-knit maps. But with such a large open space with almost nothing in it, Highguard wastes a lot of its time and potential on emptiness. And that's what, in my mind, makes it worse than Concord. At least with Concord, I walked away feeling something. Here, I just don't care, and it's a shame. I want to be able to support Highguard. I want to show it the love that I think it should get, but at the same time, I can't sit here and act like it has anything to offer that you couldn't get better in a different experience. Better characters? Play Deadlock. Better raid mechanics? Play Siege. Better prep phase and tactical shooting? Play Valorant. Better 5v5s? Play Overwatch. And if you want everything that Highguard is offering, just play Apex. I see Highguard as a lesson. This is what happens when a game is directionless and tries to take a little bit of everything without understanding what made those components tick in the machines they came from to begin with. I really do hope that Highguard can come back by overhauling its visuals and streamlining its messy mechanics, but I don't think that's possible anymore. As I'm recording this, reports are just coming out that apparently Wildlight has laid off the majority of its staff, and if my pattern recognition is correct, it means we'll likely see the game taken down before I'm even able to post this video. So, I'll leave you with this. A quote from Arrowhead Studios. A game for everyone is a game for no one. This has been Aleric. Go play Deadlock, and have a good night. Oh, finally. It's finally done after... Oh my god, so long editing. Oh, the Highguard video is complete. I'm free! I'm free! Huh? Who's calling? Hello, Azim?
Hey Al, have I ever told you that you're loved and I care for you?
I don't like that. I don't like that being the opening to this conversation. What? Why are you saying this?
How's the Highguard video doing, buddy?
It's amazing. It's fully edited. It's I think some of my best work. Why are you asking me? Please tell me that the new expansion came out and people are like, "Oh my god, this game's awesome now. They fixed the terrible gameplay." Right?
I'm so sorry, Al.
Oh my god, no, they didn't. They didn't, didn't they?
No, look, Al, it's okay, okay? Sources tell me Highguard is stable.
Oh my god, they shot him in the throat! Ah, they Concorded Highguard! I knew it! I knew it was gonna happen! God damn it! Damn it all to hell! See, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, we're not friends like that.
What the fuck?
That's fucked up.
It's so fucked up.